Welcome back, everybody, on Road to Success podcast. Today, our guest gave me the honor to be there. It's Luke Remington, the director and co-founder of Haus Haus, one of the leaders in the Dubai real estate market. Luke, welcome today.
Thank you. Hell of an intro. I'm honored.
Thank you. It's my honor to have you on the show today.
Not at all.
I just wanted to start off by those who don't know you. How would you describe yourself?
I describe myself as an ever-aging 40-plus-year-old now who's gone into real estate at a pretty young age of 17 and stuck in the industry and seen the dark depths and the highs. And just very fortunate to have landed in this career and continued in it and never wanted to leave.
Tell me if that's true. I've seen that you were nominated and you got the award of the best independent real estate agent in the UK.
I did, yeah, I did. I wouldn't say, look, I think certainly with all these podcasts that you can hear and when you interview people, they can make themselves sound probably a bit bigger than they actually are. And I can't really take that accolade as myself. I was part of a team that won that. And yeah, we were part of a network, and then let's say the network at the time, Jeremy, was probably 700 estate agents. And they were considered the best estate agents in the UK. So once a year of those 700, they would mystery shop and verify and do whatever they needed to do to pick out one. Because you had to get into the league, you were then considered to be the best estate agent. And it was something that I think we went about 8 or 9 times, and every year you think your name's going to be mentioned and it's not. And one year it was, and it was a huge amount of effort that we put into it. But although I wouldn't say I was nominated as the best estate agent, as an agency, and I was I was a small wheel in a big cog.
And what a journey so far. Like, if you look back, you founded Haus Haus in 2013, if I'm correct.
Yes, indeed.
What made you realize, okay, I'm going to create a real estate agency? And in Dubai, you're originally from the UK, from London.
Yeah. I didn't look. It's something that, it's a question I often get asked about the journey and the thought process. And as much as it's probably not great to say, I didn't really think about it that much. So I didn't really expect to go into real estate or estate agency. Okay. I fell upon it by chance. And when I started Haus Haus, I can't say, I expected it to be where we are today. And maybe that's a good thing that I don't think about things too much. But there was never a plan to say, okay, we're going to be this, or this. It was a plan to create an agency by brokers because we had done the job. So we understood what we felt was the necessities to survive and the right way to conduct business. And that was to do business that if you buy or you sell or you rent and you come into contact with a client, you treat them like your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. And let's be honest, real estate, whether we are real estate agents or politicians or bankers, we're probably not the most liked people in the worldwide industries. And that's because I think people see us as a bit of a threat. And they probably feel that we're more monetary. They have a word of commission breath, where you just see the dollar signs rather than actually wanting to guide them, steer them. And it seems to probably not just be, even lawyers at the moment. I often get lawyers saying, have you done your will, or have you done this check? And I've had a lot of calls in early January, and you think that's probably because they're trying to get their revenue up, and maybe they could be twiddling their thumbs and thinking, where can I get some money? But a long answer to it is, I didn't think about things too much, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, when I joined here, one of the reasons for me to join is because what sets you apart, in my opinion, is that customer-centric approach. And how do you think that sets you apart to have created such a company? If you compare with other agencies, it's not just about comparing yourself, but what do you think sets you apart from the competition today as a leader in the real estate industry?
If you compare, what sets you apart, you could look at monetary value. If you could kind of wonder what that agency's income is, you could compare yourself in terms of number of employees. You could compare yourself in terms of the the number of marketing people you have or the number of admin. If you look at, I don't know, let's say the top 10 or 20 agencies, and I'd say that's a combination of number of employees, departments across their division, so they can offer you a mortgage facility or a interior design facility or an off-plan facility. If you looked at their website, very little separates you all, because we all say we do this, we do that, we boast, we show off, and we have a customer-focused brand. But that is so far from the truth that actually if you start doing business with 80% of those agencies, that you actually understand that you don't focus on the customer. We don't do everything right, Jeremy, for sure. We have complaints, and I'd love to have every single one of our reviews being 5-star, gold, Google reviews. It would be wonderful, but I understand as well in life that we make mistakes and we try to rectify those and build upon those. So whether it's the customer service department or whether it's a email that I received to complain about someone and to get back in touch with someone and say, okay, I'm Luke Remington, I am the co-founder, and I am going to sort the situation out, I think is quite unique. And that's because, like I say, I wouldn't expect it to happen to my brother, my father, my sister, my mother, and I wouldn't expect it to happen to someone that I met 10 minutes ago. So if we don't do something right, we rectify it and we can make amends, and we train that out to be that we're not going to accept it in the company. And if the individual doesn't like it, we haven't built a brand over the last 12 years that we are going to let ruined or spoiled by individuals. And that's why we're really, really, really obsessed with making sure it's correct.
Talking about mistakes, do you remember one that you've probably made in your entrepreneurial journey that you'd still remember to this day, but has taught you a lot? The reason why I'm asking this question is because we tend to think that all these successful people in these industries, they're just doing a perfect all the time, 100% success, never failing anything. But most of the people that we've had on this show, they've told us every time there's been one big mistake they've done that set them to think differently, to shift gears. There's something that you could relate to that you've made in the past?
There's probably a library of mistakes, honestly. There's a library of mistakes. There's so many mistakes. There's mistakes where I feel very guilty that I have a podcast with you and I forgot about the timing, and I shouldn't have forgotten about the timing because I've got to set an example to be the ultimate professional as a manager or director of a company. So there are lots. Again, going back to the first question, I don't dwell on things. I make mistakes, I hold my hands up. If there's one thing as an individual, I would probably say not backing yourself enough. And something I've done not just in real estate, but probably in my own personal life. And I do a lot of triathlons, and I do a lot of, I was doing Ironmans, and it's going out to, we were talking about South Africa. I've been to South Africa a few times to do different Ironmans. And, before I get stuck into that swim, I'm probably not telling myself that I'm going to smash my age category or I'm going to finish in this time. And I don't know whether we tend to falsify ourselves. So in case we don't do it. So if you don't get that time you want, Luke, then don't worry about it. So I think if I look at Haus Haus, it was learning that things don't happen overnight, and you can't expect to become an overnight sensation, or you can't expect to be the talks about estate agency or real estate company within 1 year or 2 years. It isn't going to happen. Looking back, I probably thought it was going to happen.
Okay.
But it didn't happen. And there was a lot of conversations probably to myself at year 5 or 6 to say, why am I doing this? Why do you go 5 or 6 years running a company, earning substantially less? And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You will make less doing it by yourself. As a company than you will doing it by yourself. For what? You've got the hassle of dealing with the complaints for everyone, or you've got the hassle of building the websites or the marketing and doing the accounts and doing all these things. If you're not actually getting any more satisfaction from it. So, but then it does turn. but you've got to persevere. And I think something that a lot of people don't do is they don't persevere and they don't have patience. And we all want to become an overnight success. And it's probably something you and I have talked about in the past about different things. But I think backing yourself and understanding that you're not going to be an overnight success would probably be advice that I'd give to someone, because I genuinely mean that. It doesn't happen overnight. And maybe because we look at social these days and we thought, well, if I'd bought the Bitcoin, a year ago at $30,000 and today it's 100 whatever, but hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And we all wish that we could become those crypto kings, or we did something that made us instant success. But it doesn't. Usually, I think for a large proportion of those multimillionaires or billionaires or whatever they are, it's usually probably a lot of hard work, dedication, and whether Elon Musk is announcing that he slept on the floor in his Tesla office and he close to went broke. A lot of us have these things, but I had a huge amount of hours in the office away from family to make it a success, but it took an awful lot of time.
And talking about this mindset, how do you cultivate that mindset, that drive to always go get it? Because it's very interesting what you said. After 5-6 years, you reflect and you think, okay, what am I doing that for? Because I was making more, I was having a better life before. So what's that point that makes you, okay, I'm going to keep going? What drives you?
I don't know if it's a generational thing. I think I'm concerned for the future. I'll be honest, I'm concerned for my kids.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's something that, that when they're in 20 years' time, that they see that they should have success because either they inherit it, or I would hope they would see that their dad leaves the house at 6:30 in the morning or 7 a.m. And before that, he's been to the gym and he doesn't get home till pretty late, and understand that success is usually grit and determination and the hours that you put in. Learning anything takes time, right? So it's a difficult journey, and you just got to back yourself, Jeremy. You just got to back yourself.
You think it's generational? So what do you think will happen for the next generation? What do you think is the thing that's not working for the next generation compared to the one before?
I think it's probably, I think social media, I think it's entitlement. I think that we believe that, or a generation, let's say, as an example, if they grow up in Dubai today, I have some conversations with 10 years old and they're talking about brands, and whether it's a car brand or a fashion brand at 10 years old. I didn't know a fashion brand till I was 16, but I didn't have any thoughts or cares about a fashion brand. I think the first one I knew about was an aftershave, and it's Calvin Klein. It's probably, I don't think it's even going that much now, apart from some underpants. But maybe entitlement. I don't know whether there's going to be the looking back at our parents or our grandparents and seeing that roll your sleeves up, get stuck into it. And probably it's a more delicate world where you can't say a lot of things. And that's not just the area that we live within, but you're crucified if you put anything out there, or, you're going to have good comments, bad comments. Whereas I think before you could say really what you wanted to, and you had your good, your bad, and your ugly. I don't know whether people will just see. I think people, it's again different industries, and people are going into tech, and people are going into finance and having overnight success. But I think we're not probably seeing enough of the businesses that take a long time to grow, and the youngsters to see that.
So for this generation, for anyone actually, but would you have one big advice? Patience.
You have to have patience. I think you have to have patience in whatever you do. I wanted to learn Arabic. After 3 months, I quit. It's not right to have that, is it? Right? I can't learn. I can't go in and think, right, I want to actually go. I want to, I think, next 10 years, I'm going to move to the south of France. I want to learn French, and I'm going to give it 3 months. And if I'm not really good at it, I'm going to bin it off. It isn't going to happen. And I'm just using this as an example, but we don't have patience, whether that's because we're used to going onto Amazon. And I ordered something yesterday and it's going to be delivered within 6 hours. It's crazy. We don't have patience to queue. You know, I was away last summer. I was in a queue at the shop at the till in this small supermarket. I think there's 3 aisles. People are, okay, I'm in the middle aisle. Shall I go to the right one? Because that's going a bit faster. Then I go back to the middle one. Then they go, no one has any patience. That's just to get your loaf of bread on holiday. So people don't have patience, and you see it like I see it in real estate. So people have never done real estate, but they expect to sit down, and if they make phone calls for 2 months and then they haven't done deals, they start questioning their ability. And they start doubting themselves. And then they start, okay, well, this isn't for me. I haven't had success, and that person over there did a deal. Why didn't I? And then you start doubting it.
Very interesting.
So I think patience is not just in real estate, in anything, what they do, what people, if they don't have patience, then they jump ship. And there's so many different industries we can try and go into, and you could be one of those people that always seems to be moving in life into this, and that. And you're just like, where's the success?
Can we learn how to get patient? Is there, if you're someone who's impatient, who's listening today, you realize, you acknowledge, okay, I'm an impatient person. How can you change that?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Do people genuinely, and I mean this, do they look in the mirror? And do they actually understand their own problems? Because I'm learning a lot at the moment on giving feedback. And people don't like feedback because every time they receive feedback, they think it's criticism. But if you can't take honest feedback, how can you look in the mirror and say, I have a problem with patience? You can't, because you're not admitting that I'm an impatient person, or maybe I'm not an empathetic person, or whatever your issues are. Who do you have in your life to give you honest feedback that you take on and you have the patience to learn to improve? And then you measure yourself that, okay, I am improving and I do feel I'm more patient, and I can see now because I'm putting more effort into studying these languages, and I'm now in my 9th month, and I get really annoyed when I can't say these words, and then you start, okay, I'm getting better. But a lot of the time, are we actually honest with ourselves? Or do we actually care if we grow or not? I don't know whether we do. And that's probably, I don't know the statistics on it, but it's New Year's resolutions. What is it? After 20 days, people have usually, probably about this time of year actually, people have stopped going to the gym. Yes. And the New Year's resolutions they wrote in December, they can't remember what they are now because they don't look at them every day. And I think there are ways to learn to be patient, because you can see over time whether you're still doing what you said you were going to do and you're committing to it. But first of all, I think you have to be brutally honest with yourself. I've got a life coach who holds me accountable, who I speak to, and he calls me out on it. Luke, you said this 5 minutes ago, and now you're saying this. Doesn't add up. You're not talking the truth. Or you're making yourself feel better. And having someone that you really trust, that's done it before, I'm getting advice from you because you've been there, you've walked the ground, you've done it, you've had the success. That's the person that you need to probably trust to give you that, and to be like, okay, I'll hold my hands up, and and you got to want it. I want a Ferrari. Everyone wants a Ferrari, but who really wants a Ferrari? I mean it. Everyone wants things in life, but who's willing to make that extra phone call at night, or to say to their friends, look, we were due to be playing paddle tennis tonight at 7 p.m, but I can't do it because I haven't done what I needed to do today. So I'm going to make some more phone calls when I should be playing paddle tennis. And providing I do the calls that I need to do, that I set the goal to do, I'll come and play paddle tennis next week. Very few people, because they think, it's just easy. I'll play paddle tennis. Tomorrow's another day. I start again. And I think, analysing and looking at yourself is quite critical.
Do you think, I was about to ask you, surrounding yourself in my opinion, one of the most important things that you can ever do.
100%.
What do you think? Do you have the right people by your side, and do you know that these people have made sure that you would be where you're at today, or do you think it's really more about the individualism and the fact that you have to really push yourself, and then as a second role, the people around you are defining a little bit your environment? What position do you think people, your surroundings, play on your performance, on your lifestyle?
It's again a really good question. And again, it'd be really interesting the amount of people that you ask that question to and the variety of answers you'll get. And I think as I've got older, my answer has probably changed. If you'd asked me 5 or 10 years ago, it's probably changed massively to today.
Interesting.
And I think it is, of course, it has a massive effect who you hang around on or hang around with. And that is your personal life, and that is your, whoever you're living with, whether your partner or whether it's a roommate or friend. It has a massive effect on you because you can start seeing that you inherit their character as well. So of course, if you're around someone all day that's pretty negative, there's a chance, unless you look at yourself to understand that you are becoming like that person, that you need to switch. So first of all, you need to keep that eye on yourself and be alert. It's like a trigger. It's like now when I go home, and I'm going on a tangent here, but when I go home, when I push the seatbelt button in my car, I need to turn into a father. This is my thing. So 3 years ago, I would go home, I'd park my car, I'd be on my phone, my kids would run up to me, I'd push them off, I'd tell them to be quiet. I'm a businessman, I'm talking to a client, they can't hear my children, and I'd shoo them off. It's probably not how you should interact with your 5 or 6-year-old kids. Now, as soon as I click, I need to be a father. And I think there's these triggers that we have in life that we should have to give us that reflection, to be like, I'm a negative so-and-so, or who actually wants to hear me say that or be like that? And sometimes it can just be having a 5-minute time out, or it's like your kids when they are doing something naughty in class and their teacher says, look, switch on or time out or go out and think about what you've just said. But you've got to keep looking in the mirror. So who you hang around with has a massive effect on you. Is it the be all and end all? No, I don't think it is. I think it's down to yourself. If I'm sat next to someone who is not doing what they need to do and not having the success that they believe they should be having, that person has probably, in trying to rub off on you to be like, well, I'm not having the success. And if I can be a downer on you, you're not going to have the success. And if you don't have the success, you're not going to make me feel bad because you're no more successful than I am. Do you understand what I mean?
Sure.
And I think there's a lot of this that goes on in real estate where people are worried about others overtaking them. So indirectly, they could try to pull them down to make themselves feel better.
That's something that we witness a lot in this market. But by the way, about this, we hear every time the market is overcrowded, there's too many agents. But tell me if I'm wrong, but I just feel like there's enough for everybody. If you're doing the right job, if you're just really taking care of your clients like they would be family, they would be friends, I don't think you will be finding yourself without any clients if you really work hard and you make sure you prioritize honesty, which is the main aspect here. You can always improve, you can always become better, know more things, but that honesty is probably going to cost you 1-2 deals. But along the way, I just feel like there's enough for everybody. I wouldn't care about the 60,000 agents here because my worth, there's so many people that will want to work with someone like me, for example, with people that really want to take care of them. If they're not buying for 6 months, I'm still going to update you. I'm still going to call you. We're still going to go for coffee. And I feel like, what's your opinion on this overcrowded market? Are we really in a market where it's really becoming hard as an estate agent to make money and to make a living? Or do you think that's another idea?
No, I think there's for sure. There's a lot of brokers coming into the market, but there's a lot of people moving to Dubai to buy properties. If it's not overcrowded, you never have to improve because you could be thinking, well, there's more clients than there are brokers, so I'm going to get my lion's share, and I've just got to carry on doing what I've always done, and by luck, I'll do a deal. But then how do you get better if you're not up against other people, and how you're thinking, right, you do need that inner fight. Now, you don't need to be negative to your colleague if he's just done a deal and you haven't, but you need that inner fight to be like, that really upset me inside and I want to do it. Or you look at your colleague and think, he or she doesn't wear a cape, they don't fly through the night, they don't have any special powers. Why are they doing it and I'm not? And people might not want to hear, but people are weak. And I mean, they're weak. They don't want to admit that that person is probably doing something differently to what you are.
Why do you think they're not thinking that?
Because they're weak. People don't want to accept failure. And we all fail, but it's how we pull back from it and we accept it. And again, it's looking at the mirror, oh, well, I'm a failure. But the reason I'm a failure is because I was brought up in a country that isn't great, and my parents didn't put me into a good school. Or you can look at the person that also came from that same country, also from a difficult upbringing or childhood, but they've had success. Why have they had it and this person hasn't? Because they've chosen that path and that person's chosen that path.
Absolutely.
But we all have the decisions to do what we want to do, and we will get where of course, people will inherit money and there will be circumstances to why that person's got there, or you're in the royal family or whatever it may be. But the general 98% of the world will have opportunities, but have they made the correct decisions, and have they held themselves accountable? And I mean, let's be optimistic, but let's not be deluded. Okay. And there's the big thing there, Jeremy, to be like, I don't want to be deluded enough to think I'm the best in the market and I never need to learn, because then I'm not going to succeed. But, I want to be optimistic enough to say that I need to learn, I need to keep fighting, but I need to make sure that I'm doing the basic things. So there's lots of people in the market, there's lots of brokers in the market, there's lots of buyers in the market. I would look at it and think, I can do better than they can, because I think if you look out there, and we speak to them often, and we meet them often, and sometimes you go for dinner and you meet someone, you'd be like, God, if they can do it, I'm going to really do it, But, I'm sure if you go to, that rugby team or that football team, there's someone that's not making the starting 11 or 15 or whatever it may be. So what are they going to say? Well, there's too many players in the squad, but I can't get in. But maybe they need to look at their health and their nutrition and their catching or their whatever they're doing, and they get into that starting team. And that's what I think we've got to look at as ourselves, and probably analyse ourselves. Stop looking around, just look more internally, because we believe we've built an amazing brand, but we can only do so much, that it's down then to the individual to make it happen.
Are you afraid that growing the business more and more, that it starts at some point in the future to become too corporate? Because that's one of the things that we hear the most here, is that we don't feel like it's corporate. We feel like it's a very friendly environment. You have the 4 CEOs on the floor talking with us like, this is the kind of business that you really want to work in. You don't want to have someone in an office with the CEO on top and never talk to him, be afraid. So are you concerned about this? Because you've grown like 30, but what was the percentage this year of growth?
Yeah, last year it would have been 40%.
40%.
Yeah, and that's been year on year for, the last probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Yeah.
So the growth has been there. It does, look, I think what we make a lot of decisions internally, and I think, culture's a massive part of what we do, and the energy we bring. And, for instance, all the directors, we're not stuck in offices. I would never expect someone to manners, like we were talking to before, massive to me. Please, thank you. I'm not going to ask someone to pick up that thing that's just dropped on the floor. I pick it up myself. I wouldn't expect the cleaner to do something I wouldn't do. Of course, it frustrates me when I see that someone's paid to do a job and they're not doing it. I saw the other day that the wires under the table in the off-plan office, actually near where you were sat, were not tidy. And I think IT should be keeping an eye on these things. Or the aroma in the bathroom toilets hadn't been filled since November, and I kept waiting to see when was it going to be filled, and it was not filled, so I need to do it. So I think we have these touches, and we're obsessed with making people feel that they're not in a corporate world, and whether that's a friendly, let's go for a chat and a walk, or, I've messaged someone today, oh, it's your birthday, many happy congratulations and stuff like this, let's go out for lunch next week. So yeah, we don't want to go corporate for sure, and we will make sure we don't go corporate. And I think the management that we've probably put in place across the years is a game plan to make sure that we don't do that. So I believe there are more management in Haus Haus than any other real estate company compared to the number of brokers we've got. So if Luke's not there, you can go to Simon or James. And if Charlie's not there, you could go to Thomas or Clementine. And if Clementine or Thomas aren't there, you can go to Jack or Asim or the associate director. So there's lots of individuals that can help you out at different stages. And it's always things that we're constantly reviewing.
And where do you see Haus Haus in 5 years from now? What is there? Do you sit down with Charlie, James, and Simon and say, okay, this is what we're planning for the next 5-10 years? Do you have a plan?
Yeah, we have a 2030. It was done to 2030, but it was done in 2020. So that was the 10-year plan.
Okay.
There are. I think you get to a size where you think, well, does expanding anymore actually create any more opportunities, not just for us, but for employees, for the brand? Do you get more clients because you become bigger and you'll look to be bigger? But I think at a certain stage, you need to make sure that everything is put in place, from your marketing department to your accounts department to your admin department. You're covering all different sectors, whether it's property maintenance, project management, interior design. You've got all these bases covered that you can scale. And if you do decide to scale, and nothing is off the cards, and that's what I always say to people, but are we talking about scaling at the moment? No, but it's getting foundations, because if the foundations aren't right, that is where you do scale, and then things start to fall down and people don't start to feel valued, and people want to go to a smaller, less corporate company. So we think about things in detail, but now at the moment it's fine-tuning everything to make sure that the support is there to help the brokers and assist the brokers do what they need to do. And that's where I think you'll probably see it, Jeremy, that if you need help or you need that guidance with a deal, or whether, one of the managing directors has to go out with you, it isn't a question of will they say yes or no. 99% it's going to be a yes. Whereas, again, I've been in another company that when I'd been there for 3 months or so and I asked for some help with a paragraph or a clause or coming out to see a client, the managing director just said, that's not my job. So we want people to feel valued. And I feel that what we do is, I would be disappointed if I spoke to someone I felt that they were just a number. But I do also understand that when there's 500 plus people, there will always be people that do feel like a number. But again, we can't make everyone happy. But certainly, I think we do our best to make them happy.
I do remember a couple of months ago, there was a deal that we were doing, pretty tough one. Simon jumped on. He helped me. He was on Friday night, 10 p.m., still working from his house, passing some calls. Simon knows everybody.
Yeah.
He was passing on some calls. The results were unfortunate because the client decided to just put everything away. But I saw a managing director that had probably so many other things to do of his weekends than to help someone for a small deal. That's one of the first moments when I realized, okay, wow, this is very inspiring, because it's not that it's not supposed to do that, but it's like when you were telling me, when you were apologizing for not being able to make the first meeting, what did I say? You're a CEO, it's fine, no worries. In my mind, for example, this is not something that you're supposed to do. So it's really great to see this kind of behavior, because it's not something that would benefit you straight away, but they know that by taking care of this, I don't know, this is why we still love Haus Haus, and we still understand that this is the right place to be, because when I need help, I'll find it. If I put the right amount of work, of course, we all deserve to get help, and we get help from the top. So this is really impressive.
I think, and this is again a great point, and this I think then shines down. So if we weren't to come and help you at 10 p.m., then we're not really setting an example for you to help your client at 10 p.m. So what we expect people to do, we have to be willing to do ourselves as well. And I think that's the point for us, that we'll help you at 10 p.m. And likewise, we want you to help that client at 10 p.m. And this is the difficulty that I think clients can't see and some brokers can't see if they just look at shiny websites, because the MDs are always going to be there for you. We'll do whatever we can, and we're going to be, we're going to hold your hand to do all these things. But once you're in there, you realize, you talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk. And I think that's hand on heart that I can say that we do walk the walk.
Can you explain, by the way, to our audience, you have 5 values here that we repeat to ourselves on a weekly basis. And can you explain to us what are these 5 values and why did you pick them?
Yeah, okay. So I think the first time, Jeremy, that we opened, we had a consultancy firm come in. I think we had about 45, 50 values, and they said, what was one of them? We didn't know them. So when you don't know them, it's very difficult to enact them day in, day out. So I suppose if you've got 5 things to do a day, then it's a lot easier to do than if I say to you, we'll do 50 things. So we work in work.
That's number 1.
That's number 1. Do you know what number 2 is?
We do what we say.
So that's, again, they're very simple, aren't they? You can, we do what we say. If we say we're going to do something, we do it. That's why I apologize to you, because of I said that I was going to do a podcast with you. I got the times mixed up. I didn't put it in my diary, and therefore I'm disappointed. I need to apologize and just make an effect from that. We listen and learn. And I think this is really important, that, when we go into training sessions, if we listen to it, we try and get something from it, or we can listen to something and we're listening to it, but at the same time, it's like me talking to you. Well, I'm going to be on my phone, and while you're talking to me, a bit's going in, but I'm not really learning. So I just think we've got to learn, and that's how we're going to move forwards. 4th one,
we're positive and proactive,
which is massive, right? Probably going back to what you're saying on who you surround yourself with. Let's be honest, do people want to be around people that aren't positive and proactive? It's really simple and effective. And I think that's something, actually, one thing that I need to look at myself on, that I'm always, okay, it's not just how I look and I haven't got coffee stains down my top or my shirt, but how am I walking? Do I look like I'm enthusiastic? Do I look like I'm positive? Do I look like I'm proactive? Because if I'm not, people don't really want to talk to me. And the 5th one,
the most important for me.
Okay.
We obsess over our customers.
Yeah. Says what it is, right? There's no, I can go on about that one, but it's just, I think, the Google reviews, the customer service department that we have, obsessing over our customers is something that, if we do those 5 things, so if we do it, say we're positive, proactive, listen and learn, we obsess over our customers, there isn't any reason that you shouldn't really have success. And I mean that actually, if you do that and you're not the best salesperson, you can still succeed in real estate. I think that's what we looked at. Do those, and you could succeed in real estate.
Before we close, and thank you very much for your time. It's just fantastic talking with you. What do you think will happen in 2025, first for Haus Haus and also for the Dubai real estate market? What do you foresee? I've just listened this morning to the podcast of Stephen and Paul in the car. These guys are really funny. I really love them. They were talking about what they were thinking will happen in 2025, and I just feel like everyone has a different kind of feeling. Yes. So what would you foresee?
Okay, what do I foresee?
In your crystal ball.
I foresee, from looking worldwide and not trying to be, I live in Dubai, it's a fantastic place, I expect everyone else to feel the same. I feel that we are in we've gone through a lot of things with different prime ministers in different countries, and different things, whether it's France or UK, or we've just had the president elected in the US. But I think a lot of the world has found its feet, and people are ultimately, they want to be safe and secure. I think they want to have positivity and optimism, and I think sun and not dreary weather. They want they want a lot of things. And I think the world's in a catastrophe, really. Maybe that's a bit dramatic, but
I do agree.
It's in a bad way, shape and form. And people come here and they just get a sense of, wow, it's the general positivity when you speak to someone here or get served your coffee here compared to Europe or, other places. So I foresee that Dubai is going to continue to grow. I think what they commit to, they deliver. I see massive waiting lists on all schools. I see more schools being built. I see roads being built. I see tramways and tube stations and cycle tracks and all this development happening. And there would be no reason that it would be happening unless we expected the people to come. So, like Simon says, build it and they will come. Where else would you, and again, I try to be critical about it. If I'm not going to Dubai, where else am I going to go? Maybe I go to Asia, maybe I go to Thailand, maybe I go to Bali, or maybe if I go to Europe and I pay tax. And everyone's going to have different needs and wants, but Dubai ticks. I always say when you look at a house, if you can tick 6 or 7 boxes out of 10 wants, you probably should buy it. If you're looking for 9, it probably doesn't exist. And if it does exist, it's going to be over your budget. So Dubai, if you're looking for somewhere to live, it's probably going to tick 7 out of the 10 boxes. And therefore, if people are coming, they need real estate. At the moment, we're still going to have a small amount of units handed over in 2025. 2028, there's going to be a lot more supply. But there's some great things, great developments. And I speak honestly, Jeremy, as well. Would I buy in 2025? Yes, I would. Have I got any concerns about the market 2025? No. And the second part to your first or your second House and House is to make sure the foundations are strong to support the growth that has been put in place for the last 2-3 years, because there has been that 40% growth that we talked upon, but making sure the foundations are there to support the individuals and them to understand that they work for the best, and therefore we expect them to act like the best.
Thank you. I stole from Stephen Bartlett on the Diary of a CEO his ritual at the end of his podcast where the previous guest would leave a question for the next one without knowing who it is. Yeah. So the question that's been asked to you today is, what's the biggest risk you've ever taken in your life?
What is the biggest risk I've taken? It's something that I probably don't think an awful lot about, but probably the expansion of House and House, where we would have taken R001, which would have been by far the biggest office. It would have been 3 times the size. Money wasn't as fluent in the company. We didn't have a huge amount in the bank. I wouldn't have said we were hand to mouth in terms of funds, but we didn't, if things went difficult, it would have been a problem for us at that stage. That was a big risk and probably kept me up at night more than anything else that I've done. Was the expansion. I'm glad I did it, yes, massively. However, I know other companies at the same time have done expansions and it hasn't worked. So I think unless things keep you up at night, it's probably not a big enough risk.
Look, thank you. Thank you for being on this show today. It was a wonderful time.
Thank you.
To be done again, and I really appreciate you.
Cheers. Thanks ever so much, Jeremy.
Thank you, Luke.
Cheers. Thank you, mate.
Fantastic.
Cheers. Thank you. Sorry.